I thought I was building a new life with the woman I loved, until I found a contract with her signature, and my daughters listed like products for sale. I read the document slowly, each word sinking deeper like a stone dropped into a dark well. My brain struggled to register what I was seeing, something so horrific, so twisted it didn't feel real. Human trafficking catered to high-end clients. My wife's signature was right there in black ink. And listed beneath it? The names of my 3 daughters. My biological daughters. They were listed like inventory, like items in a catalog. How could someone I trusted turn out to be this vile? The rage came fast, hot and unrelenting, surging through me like molten rock tearing through a mountain. My temples throbbed, my fists clenched until my knuckles ached, and my chest heaved with every breath. My heart screamed denial, but my mind had already accepted the unthinkable. Rachel hadn't just betrayed me. She'd crossed a line so monstrous, it made betrayal feel like a petty offense. She had signed away our girls, our daughters, to men who viewed children not as people, but as possessions to be bought and sold. I couldn't sit there another second. Time was slipping through my fingers like sand in a broken hourglass. If that contract was in motion, if I got home and they were already gone. No. I couldn't even let that thought finish. The chair screeched back as I stood, nearly tearing the paper in my shaking hands. My eyes turned cold. My thoughts cut sharp through the fog of panic. I had one question burning through every nerve: are they still home? Was there still time? Up until that moment, I thought I had finally found peace. I'm Michael Trent, used to be CIA years ago. I walked away from that world after my first wife died, thinking I could build something safer. Something steady for my daughters. My oldest, Emily, is 17. Quiet, observant, and so deeply intuitive it scared me sometimes. She didn't trust easily. Not like her younger sisters. Emily was the one who stayed on the outside, watching everything, piecing it together before she let herself believe. So much like me it hurt. Then there were the twins, Lily and Mia, both 14. Full of life, always smiling, always seeing the good in people. They adored their stepmom. And honestly, I thought Rachel loved them too. Rachel and I had been married for 4 years. I used to think she was my second chance, my miracle after so much loss. She was clever, full of spark, and seemed to light up around the girls. I believed she wanted the best for them. She enrolled them in modeling programs, dance classes, top-tier academic courses. Said she was helping them build a future. She looked me in the eye and told me she wanted to help them shine. God, how blind was I? I was blind to it all. Never once did I suspect that those dance classes and modeling lessons were just grooming in disguise. I thought her care and interest in the girls were real, heartfelt. But now I see it for what it truly was. A mask, a performance carefully crafted to cover a deal that could have destroyed everything I held dear. A transaction that wore the skin of affection. You ever notice how pain carries a scent? Not strong, but you know it when it's there. Like the coppery smell of blood after a fight. Or that stale hospital smell, antiseptic, linoleum floors, and bad coffee left burning too long on a warmer. That's what grief smells like. That's what loss smelled like to me the night I almost lost everything the first time around. Back then, I was still clawing my way out of the wreckage of war. Emily, my first wife, she was the only light I had in those dark years. Her laughter. It pulled me back when the violence and the memories tried to drag me under. I met her when I was 26, full of false confidence, thinking I had already seen the worst of life. Then she looked at me, really looked, and everything shifted. Her green eyes saw straight through the walls I'd built. We had a decade together. 10 years of something real. I would have traded anything to keep that time, to extend it. But no one tells you what the price of happiness might be until it's too late. Cancer doesn't scream. It whispers. Quietly, cruelly, slipping out of a doctor's mouth like a secret that shouldn't exist. When we found out, it had already spread. We tried everything, radiation, surgeries, second and third opinions. I did what I was trained to do, fight. I called in favors from old contacts, found the best specialists, flew her to clinics that treated the ultra-wealthy. I believed if I could survive black ops and bloody conflict, I could beat this too. But cancer isn't a battlefield. You can't outflank it or take it out with force. I remember the last night I held her hand, her fingers so light, like her body had let go before her spirit was ready. Her voice was soft, threaded with pain but still glowing with love. "Michael," she whispered, barely audible, "you've got to keep living. You still have the girls." She looked at me like I'd just handed her the stars. Like knowing I'd be there for our daughters gave her peace. After she was gone, something inside me broke. And when Rachel came into my life, she didn't ask questions like most would. Most women, if you tell them you've got 3 kids and a heart full of scars, they pause. They hesitate. But not Rachel. She looked at me like I was the miracle. I should have known something wasn't right. Maybe part of me did. But I was exhausted, emotionally drained and desperate for something, anything that didn't hurt. That's when we started dating. She moved like the wind, effortless, free, with a laugh that could cut through the heaviest silence and make even strangers smile. The girls, especially Lily and Mia, adored her almost instantly. They were always drawn to kind faces and warm voices, and Rachel had both, or at least she seemed to. For years, I truly believed I had rebuilt what I'd lost with Emily. A real home. A sense of safety, warmth, and belonging. I let myself believe that the ache in my chest had finally quieted. But the truth, no matter how deep you try to bury it, has a way of creeping back. Like rust silently devouring the steel beneath a polished surface. It began with small things. Little shifts in routine. Rachel started taking late-night phone calls, said they were related to new gigs for the girls. Opportunities, auditions, elite modeling offers. It all sounded promising and I wanted to trust her. But beneath my skin something started to crawl. Like standing in a sealed room and still feeling a breeze, you can't see where it's coming from but you know it's there. Then came the day that unraveled everything. Rachel was supposed to be at work. She told me she had back-to-back meetings at the office, nothing out of the ordinary. But when I stopped by unexpectedly, her assistant met me with a casual shrug. "Oh, she left a couple of hours ago. Had a meeting to get to," she said. "A meeting?" She told me she'd be in the office all day. My stomach twisted. I didn't want to assume the worst, but the seed of doubt had already rooted itself. I walked into her office. The door wasn't locked. Everything looked orderly, files stacked, her laptop sitting idle. Nothing seemed off, until I noticed the folder. It was thick, sealed with a bold red label that read private, marked with a strange agency's logo I didn't recognize. I didn't go there to pry. But my hands were already moving before I could stop them. That's when I saw it all. My heart began to pound like a war drum. The walls felt too close, the air too thin. I bolted. I don't remember getting in the car. I don't remember traffic lights or intersections. The road became a blur, just one long gray line stretching between me and my daughters. I called Emily first. Ring. What? Twice. 5 times. Nothing. Then I tried Lily. The same. Just the endless ringing in my ear. Mia next. Still nothing. My hand gripped the wheel so tight my knuckles went numb. My head throbbed with pressure, my pulse a hammer against my skull. Panic clawed up my throat and before I could stop it, a scream ripped out of me. It came from somewhere deep, somewhere I didn't even know existed, rage, fear, helplessness, all tangled into one broken roar that left my voice shredded. I slammed my hand against the dashboard and shouted at myself. Think, Michael. Think. I had to move. I had to do something. I stood up straight, brushed myself off like I could somehow shake the panic from my bones. I rushed back to Rachel's desk, heart pounding like a war drum in my chest. The folder had to hold more, something. A lead, a name, anything. I flipped through the pages in a frenzy, tossing documents aside until I found it. A small leather-bound notebook tucked at the bottom. Inside were names, numbers, addresses, and one name hit me like a spotlight cutting through pitch black. Victor Kane. The second I saw it, my mind lit up. That name wasn't just familiar, it was a warning, a shadow from a darker world. I grabbed my phone and stormed out, feet moving before I'd even planned my next step. Back at her assistant's desk, I didn't waste time. I leaned in, close enough to see fear spark in her eyes. "Where is Rachel?" I asked low and steady. Her mouth opened, but no words came at first. Then, barely above a whisper, "I don't know." I slammed my hand against the desk, hard. The sound echoed sharp and sudden, sending her coffee cup crashing to the floor. "Don't lie to me," I growled. "Where is she? Where are my girls?" Her face drained of color. She leaned back like the chair could protect her, eyes darting away. "I swear, Michael, I don't know." I pulled the pistol from under my coat and placed it gently on the desk. Not raised, not pointed, just there. The barrel tapped against the wood in slow, steady beats. "You have 5 seconds to start remembering." She froze and I saw the truth flicker behind her panic. But I wasn't waiting. I turned and stormed out, engine roaring to life as I tore through the city. The streets blurred. Red lights didn't exist to me anymore. Rage and fear twisted inside me like barbed wire. I could barely think, only feel. My daughters' faces flashed in my mind, one after another, and every second wasted felt like a knife digging deeper. I reached the edge of town, where the land turns quiet and forgotten. The abandoned hangar stood there, gray, rotting, with shattered windows and rusted walls. But inside, lights. Flickering, faint, like a heartbeat. I killed the engine and parked in the shadows. I stepped out, weapon ready, moving silently. The smell hit me first, stale air, dust, and something else. Something like betrayal. I crept toward the entrance, every sense heightened, every step fueled by fury. Then, movement. A figure emerged from the shadows. He didn't hesitate and neither did I. He lunged. Big mistake. I dodged just enough to let him fly past, crashing into a rusted shelf with a loud clang. I turned and slammed the butt of my pistol into the side of his skull. He staggered but stayed upright, grabbing a fistful of my jacket and trying to wrestle me down. The fight was brutal, no style, no rules. Just survival. He was strong but I was quicker. I slammed my elbow into his throat. He gasped, grip faltering. I twisted free and landed a blow square to his jaw, crack. His head snapped sideways but he didn't go down. He came at me again, reckless now. This time I let him. At the last second I ducked low, arms wrapping around his legs, lifting just enough to throw him off balance. My heart was thundering so loud it drowned out everything else. This time. I wasn't going to be too late. I couldn't be. The night pressed in thick and heavy, like black paint smeared across the sky. I was getting close, too close for second guessing. Victor Kane's mansion stood at the outskirts of the city, perched above the old dockyards where even the wind carried secrets. The place loomed like a shrine to everything corrupt, towering gates, dead-eyed windows, and a silence so thick it felt like breathing in dust. My pulse pounded in my ears as I approached. The car's cabin felt suffocating even with the windows cracked. Every nerve in my body was on fire. There was no time to think, only act. I moved fast. A guard rounded the corner, didn't even see it coming. I threw my knife, and the blade buried itself deep in his throat. He staggered, clutching the wound, trying to scream but choking on blood. His knees gave out beneath him and I yanked the knife free before pressing forward. At the main door I didn't hesitate. A direct shot, one round, center of the forehead. The first guard dropped instantly. The second one tried to draw but he was too slow. I closed the distance, slammed the butt of my rifle into his jaw, then followed with a brutal uppercut to his stomach. He crumpled, gasping for air. I ended it. Quiet. Quick. The way was clear now. I crept toward the van parked behind the mansion. A thin line of light spilled out beneath the rear door, and I could hear voices inside. I held my breath and listened. Victor's voice, smooth, smug, laced with poison. "Well, girls," he said, drawling the words like a villain in a play, "time to get undressed and take your little test before we ship you off to the island." I froze. My heart dropped into my stomach. Then I heard them. My daughters. Their voices. Anna spoke first, her voice trembling but still trying to stay strong. "You said we were going to Europe. For modeling. For a casting." Sophie's voice followed, scared, confused. "You promised? Why are you saying this now?" Victor laughed, dragging each word out with sick delight. "Oh, sweet girls, you're going to a different kind of casting. One that pays a lot more, and lasts a lot longer." And then, they saw me. I was there. No more hiding. No more waiting. No one was going to lay a hand on them again. Victor reached for his weapon but I fired first. The shot ripped through his shoulder, knocking him back into the wall with a scream. Blood bloomed across his shirt like an opening wound. Behind me Rachel screamed. "Michael, you don't understand what you're doing." I turned to her and for the first time her voice didn't cut through me. It meant nothing. "You're right, Rachel," I said, my voice like ice. "I really don't understand how you could sell our daughters." I stepped forward, but before I could move again, the hallway answered with movement, like the walls themselves exhaled. They came from the shadows. Big, built like tanks. Cold eyes. No hesitation. Not human anymore, just muscle, steel, and orders. I squeezed the trigger once, twice, 3 times. 2 of them went down, wounded but not dead. Then click. Empty. No more rounds. I cursed under my breath and tossed the gun aside, charging forward with nothing but raw fury to carry me. The adrenaline surged like fire in my veins. I slammed my elbow into the first man's throat. He dropped, gasping. I pivoted and delivered a hard right hook to the second, feeling his jaw give way beneath my knuckles. But there were too many. The third man grabbed me by the throat, his grip crushing, cutting off my air. I twisted, desperate, and drove my knee up hard between his legs. His hold loosened just enough for me to land another punch. Then everything blurred. The light vanished. The last thing I saw before the darkness took me was them, my girls, being dragged away screaming. Their eyes wide with terror, their voices shattering as they cried for me. My heart splintered as I hit the ground, helpless. I was supposed to protect them. I was their father. And I had failed. They were gone. And I was too broken to stop it. When I came to, it was like clawing my way up from the bottom of a deep, black ocean. Consciousness returned in pieces, pain first, sharp and throbbing in my skull. A piercing ring echoed in my ears. I tried to breathe, to move, but everything hurt. Then a voice broke through the haze. Michael, Jesus man. Are you alive? I knew that voice. I blinked and there he was, Rick. His face creased with relief, his hands working fast to cut the ropes binding my wrists. Emotion crashed over me like a wave. Was this real? Was I dreaming? I grabbed his shoulder, my throat raw and tight. Tears burned behind my eyes. Rick? My voice cracked. I'm here, brother, he said, steady and sure. I've got you. I managed to sit up with a gasp, half from the pain, half from sheer disbelief. A weak, crooked smile crept onto my face. Damn, am I glad to see you. Rick gave me that no-nonsense military-style nod. Brief, firm, solid. You really think I'd let you rot in a place like this? I laughed, short, strained but real. So what now? They'd got the girls, that place, it's locked down like a fortress. By land, sea, maybe even air. You serious? I asked, shaking my head slowly. You've actually got intel on it? Rick smirked, reached behind him and slapped a thick folder down on the table. I've got more than intel. He flipped it open. Maps, surveillance photos, blueprints. One image caught my eye, a luxurious villa perched above the ocean, all glass and stone, gleaming under the sun. That's our target. I stared. That villa? Rick's grin widened. That's my little villa. I blinked. You've got to be kidding me. I stared at him, incredulous. How in the world do you have friends with this kind of money? And why the hell didn't you ever mention it? Rick just shrugged like it wasn't worth explaining. Classic Rick. That's when he introduced me to the team. Jake Harper, former Special Forces sniper. Tall, wiry, with eyes like cold steel and a stare that could freeze time. He didn't say much, but when he did, every word landed like a bullet. He'd spent years operating behind enemy lines, making clean kills from half a mile out. He was our shadow, watchful, lethal, and quiet. Then there was Mark Douglas, demolitions and close-quarters combat. Built like a linebacker with a voice that sounded like it had been sanded down by gravel and smoke. He always wore that half-smirk like he knew something you didn't. And he probably did. Mark could turn just about anything into a weapon. Phones. Credit cards. Toothpicks. I once saw him dismantle a door and reassemble it into a trap in under 3 minutes. Together they were the kind of men who could walk through fire and win. From there we moved base to Rick's villa, an oceanfront marvel carved into the cliffs like something off the cover of a luxury magazine. Glass walls. White stone. Palm trees dancing in the breeze. It should have felt like paradise. To me it was a war room. I stood by the massive window, staring out at the endless blue stretching to the horizon. Somewhere beyond that water, somewhere hidden by luxury and lies, my daughters were being held. And I was going to bring them home. We divided the plan into pieces. Jake would handle recon. He confirmed the worst. The island, Isla del Sol, was guarded by a private militia. Ex-special ops. Mercs for hire. No allegiance. No morals. Just blood money and black market contracts. Mark ran the gear check. Rigs. Explosives. Tactics. Every inch of his focus was razor sharp. We moved at dawn. The sky burned red and gold, like the earth itself was warning us of the violence ahead. And I welcomed it. Every drop of blood that needed spilling, I was ready to spill it. At sunrise, we gathered around the table in Rick's villa. The map of the island lay flat between us, corners held down with ammo clips. The breeze from the open balcony stirred the curtains, but inside that room nothing moved. The air was thick with purpose. Isla del Sol wasn't just a private island. It was a ghost zone. Off the map. No surveillance. No accountability. Even the regular guards weren't allowed into the inner section. Only a special unit. The ones trusted to handle the worst of it. My fists clenched until my palms bled. Sick monsters, I muttered under my breath. They really think they can take my girls, do what they want, and get away with it? Jake stepped forward, calm but certain. He rested a hand on my shoulder, firm, grounding. They won't see the sunrise after tomorrow, he said. And I believed him. I locked eyes with Jake for a second, and in that look I saw it, pure fury burning just as hot as mine. This wasn't just about combat anymore. This wasn't duty. This was family. We didn't need to speak. We both understood exactly what was at stake. "This is how we move," Rick said, laying out the plan. His tone was calm, but I could feel the edge in it. "Mark and I will approach from the west side, about a few hundred yards offshore. Silent entry, then we move as one." The boat cut across the ocean like a blade, gliding through the black water. No sound except the soft churn of the waves and our breathing. It felt like we were slicing through our own rage, the sea mirroring it, dark, cold, and endless. Then it rose into view. Isla del Sol. It looked like something carved straight from stone by the devil himself. On the outside, all elegance and opulence. White villas. Clean winding paths. But we knew better. Beneath the surface, it was rot and shadows. Hidden chambers. Locked doors. Pain buried under marble floors and gold chandeliers. We landed in a secluded cove, where jagged cliffs curled inward like claws. It was the perfect breach point. Jake took his position high above us, rifle already aimed, eyes scanning every corner with that same sniper's focus I'd seen on foreign battlefields. He was a ghost, unseen but always watching. I, on the other hand, couldn't stop the storm raging inside me. Anger and fear churned in my gut, every footstep pounding with purpose. Each breath reminded me why I was here. We reached the service access point, a rusted metal hatch near one of the maintenance buildings. Rick moved quietly, slowly lifting the cover to peek through. "Two guards at the entrance," he murmured. "I'll take the one on the left," I whispered back. Mark gave a sharp nod, drawing his blade in silence. We moved as one. The hatch flew open and we were on them in a blink. One clean strike. My blade slid under the first guard's ribs, angled perfectly between bone and organ. He collapsed without a sound. At the same moment, Rick slit the other's throat, swift and practiced, the man barely registering what had happened before he hit the ground. "Clear," Rick whispered. I gripped my weapon tight. "Hold on, girls. I'm almost there. I'm coming." We made our way to the next door. I felt my fingers clench the handle of my knife so tightly, my knuckles turned white. My heart didn't race. It pounded, steady and heavy. It was the rhythm I remembered from long nights when survival was routine and death was a breath away. But this wasn't just another mission. This was vengeance. Rick nodded. Mark double-checked the silencer on his pistol. But me? I slid my gun back into its holster. Bullets were mercy. I wanted something more personal. I opened the door, and soft neon light spilled out like a lie, glowing faintly as if trying to cover the stench of what was happening inside. One of them turned. I moved first. My hand snapped out, clamping around his neck, and before he could make a sound, I drove my dagger straight into his eye. I felt the crunch, bone giving way beneath the steel. He screamed, but only once. I yanked the blade free and didn't hesitate, drove it into his other eye. If he ever lived, he wouldn't see daylight again. The third man turned to run. Idiot. I threw my knife. It sliced clean through the air and buried itself deep into his thigh. He screamed, collapsing to the floor, dragging himself forward and leaving a long streak of blood across the tile. I didn't rush. I walked toward him slowly, one deliberate step at a time. Like death coming for him in a measured pace. "No, please, don't," he sobbed, reaching a trembling hand toward me. But I didn't stop. And then, I saw them. Tucked in the corner of that nightmare room, my daughters. Tears stained their faces, but in their eyes, a flicker of light. A spark of recognition. A fragile thread of hope. I dropped to my knees, hands shaking as I undid the last ropes that bound them. The second they were free, I pulled them into my arms, holding them so tightly I thought I might crush them. But I couldn't let go, not even for a second. Letting go felt like inviting the nightmare back. My eyes swept across the room. That's when I noticed the pile of blankets thrown over a chair. I grabbed them and returned, wrapping each girl with care, covering the shameful costumes they'd been forced into. Their bodies were trembling, whether from fear or cold I didn't know. Probably both. Anna clung to me, burying her face in my shoulder. She didn't say anything. None of them did. And in that silence, surrounded by the stench of death and the ghosts of trauma, I felt nothing but a single burning promise. This wasn't over. There was still one more person I had to face. I slid my knife back into its sheath, checked my sidearm. Then I stood. Without another word, I stepped into the dimly lit hallway, leaving only blood and a vow behind me. I will find her. And I will finish this. I moved through the corridors like a phantom. Footsteps silent, but the echo of every shot I fired stayed with me, each one a marker left behind. 2 guards stirred from their posts, one trying to rise from bed. Boom, boom. They dropped instantly. Lifeless. Strings cut. And then I saw her. Rachel. She was sitting upright now, clutching a sheet to her chest like it could shield her from what I'd become. Her eyes widened the second she recognized me. Fear. And something else, something I recognized too late, contempt. You came to kill me, she said, voice trembling but still trying to hold on to some fake strength. I didn't look away. I tilted my head, cold and steady. No, I said. I came to look into the eyes of the one who betrayed me. She sat up straighter, still hiding behind that sheet, as if the fabric could protect her from the truth, from justice, from me. But nothing could now. There was no remorse in her eyes. No guilt. No apology. Only calculation. Cold. Sure. Final. You still don't get it, do you, Michael? Her voice was ice. This was the plan all along. From the very beginning. She leaned forward, her voice a whisper that cut deeper than any blade. I never loved you. Not once. I didn't move. But inside me something shattered, like glass struck by a hammer. Everything I'd held on to, everything I believed, cracked in a single breath. You were useful, Rachel said, her voice as cruel as ever. Stable. Connected. Comfortable. You thought you saved me, but I let you. I said nothing. I just moved. One motion. Precise. Unflinching. She screamed, the sound slicing through the room, then collapsed into a sob as the blade struck deep. The second thrust was stronger, final. Her body tensed, struggling, but her strength drained with every second. Her eyes met mine and I watched the light fade, watched the truth settle in. This wasn't murder. This was release. She had sold her soul long ago. All I did was end the shadow she left behind. When it was done, I stood over her, chest heaving, the room still around me. I didn't feel triumph. I didn't feel relief. Just a heavy, aching emptiness. I had killed the serpent that had wrapped itself around everything I loved. I wiped the blade on the sheet she clutched so desperately, then turned and walked out without glancing back. Out into the night. Later, as the boat carried us away from that cursed island, I stood on deck staring at the horizon as it swallowed the shoreline. The place behind us, a palace of lies, pain and power, was finally slipping away. But I knew it wasn't over. I thought about the ones who had funded it all. The faceless men. Their polished shoes, slick grins and cruel laughter. The ones who thought they were untouchable. I looked at my daughters sitting beside me, their small hands in mine. The trembling that once overtook them had begun to fade. But I still felt the tremor inside me. As long as places like this exist, I muttered, eyes hard, we're not men anymore. We're monsters in suits. Rick sat beside me quiet. He looked at me and nodded. You did what you had to. You saved them. I clenched my fist, jaw tight. No, I said, my voice low but solid. I started something. The fire hadn't gone out, it had only changed shape. Back on land, I tapped into old networks. Former operatives, investigators, truth seekers who hadn't given up. People who remembered what it meant to stand for something. This isn't just some isolated case, I told Rick one night as we sat surrounded by papers, photographs, classified files. This is a war. Rick didn't flinch. He leaned forward and smiled faintly. Then we bring every weapon we've got. We reached out to independent journalists. The kind who couldn't be bought, couldn't be silenced. We gave them the files, the footage, the evidence. It was time the world saw what we saw. And it was far from over. I leaked everything. The files. The images. The names. I sent it all to newsrooms, investigative outlets, and into the hands of reporters who were desperate for the next big story. But this wasn't just a headline. This was a reckoning. It spread like wildfire. The footage, the documents, the horror. People watched in disbelief, their screens filled with faces of innocents stolen and lives reduced to property. The ones who once laughed in secret boardrooms, who dined on cruelty and silence, they cried now. They begged. They pleaded for mercy they never showed. Justice was waking up. Back home, Anna squeezed my hand tightly, her eyes brimming with tears. Dad, you did it. I looked at her, shook my head gently. No, sweetheart. This is just the beginning. We had been victims, me and more painfully my daughters. But I made a vow in that moment. As long as breath filled my lungs, I would never let another child be stolen, sold, or silenced. Not while I was still standing. The world heard us. They saw the truth we had lived through. And for the first time in a long time, they couldn't look away. Months passed. The headlines faded. The world moved on. But we didn't, not in the same way. The scars remained. The shadows still whispered sometimes in the quiet. But they no longer owned us. We survived. We rebuilt. And somewhere in that slow climb out of darkness, we found a new kind of strength. One evening we sat around a fire in the backyard. The crackling wood, the soft glow, it felt like peace. Sophie looked up suddenly, her voice bright with laughter. "Dad, we can dance again." She ran to me and jumped into my lap, her arms wrapping around me like she never wanted to let go. Grace followed, her hug tight around my neck, grounding me in a love that no trauma could erase. Anna sat beside me, leaned her head on my shoulder and simply breathed. "Yes, baby," I whispered, holding them even closer. "You can do anything now." I looked at them, faces lit by firelight, eyes full of life. They weren't just surviving anymore. They were living. And right then, in that quiet, glowing moment, I finally understood. I was the happiest man in the world.